Okay, lovely people. So I'm just going to go through the answers with you. So just a reminder, if you're feeling that you're coming close to the end of that half an hour, there is one more activity, but don't be afraid just to pause and give yourself a break, okay? The wonderful thing is the pause button at this time, okay? Exercise that little bit of self-control, have a pause, get a drink if you want to. But there is one more task that I would love us to do together today, okay? But if it's taking too much time or you're feeling stressed, it's okay. So pause and be ready to go through our answers and see what's coming next. Okay, so on this yellow side, really that was about locating, finding those keywords, inexplicable, impregnated in a hoax, in the right place in the text. So I'm brilliant. It's really made me happy to see so many of you have got that right. It's that inexplicable 2% that intrigues him. So that comes quite early on in the article. And then towards the end, as he's talking about the cases that he's done, he uses our other two keywords later on. It seems possible, he says, that the hundreds of rashers of bacon and eggs cooked there years before had impregnated their smell in the chimney. And then finally, the flour is to detect human footprints if I think a hoax is being carried out, he says. So you can see on that yellow side, it was about matching our key vocabulary with where it occurs in the text. So that's why the paraphrase task was harder, because it was about looking at what those keywords mean, inexplicable, impregnated in a hoax, and trying to then use that meaning of that vocabulary to paraphrase, to check your own understanding. So you might have come up with slight variations, but these are three ways that we could have paraphrased those sentences. Okay, Andrew Green is interested in the 2% of unexplainable cases, because if you look back at our definition of inexplicable, it means unexplainable, things that cannot be unfolded or explained over time. Brilliant. Okay, number 2, Green says that it might be that the smell of bacon and eggs soaked into the chimney all those years ago. So that word impregnated means that something has soaked, infused, you could have chosen, into the chimney. In other words, the smell is part of the brickwork of the chimney, and that's why they were smelling all those years later. Okay, so if you got soaked or infused, brilliant choice. Last but not least, that word hoax, okay? So it means a lie, a trick, a deception. If I want to check whether I'm being tricked, lied to, I use flour to see if there are any human footprints. Okay, so that was the paraphrase challenge. So it was harder. So if you manage to find the words in the right places, brilliant. If you're able to do the paraphrase task, excellent, because you're going from just locating information to showing that you understand it, which is brilliant. Okay, and as I said at this point, really we've come to about probably half an hour of learning, but there is one more task I did want to do with you. So if you're up for it, stay with me. If not, brilliant, and I'll see you tomorrow for lesson number 3. Okay, so really this is just focusing on that final skill of summarizing. And we're going to just use a similar activity to what we started with, true and false, to help us summarize and start to draw out key information. So it says here, our question is, which is an example of a strange thing that happens in the article? And which is a non-example? So out of the two statements, what would you say is a strange thing that happened and which isn't a strange thing? Okay, so number 1, a strange thing that happens is the fruit bowl of oranges that floats. Okay, or number 2, a strange thing that happens is the mice making the piano play music. So just as a personal moment, you don't have to write anything down. Which of those is an example of a strange thing, but which is the non-example? Which isn't a strange thing that happens, and why? So I'm just going to let you think about those. Which of those two? One is an example of something strange. One is a false example of something strange. Which is which and why? Okay, so let's have a little look at the answers then. Right, the strange thing that happens is the fruit bowl floating in the air because he can offer no reason or explanation for it. It's when he starts to talk in the article about poltergeist activity. So that is our writer interviewing Andrew Green, and Andrew Green says there are some things he can explain and some things that he can't. So in other words, it's a strange thing if it's inexplicable, if he can't explain or give a reason for it. He counts it as explainable if he can come up with a logical reason. So if you remember right back when the article starts, he talks about a strange thing was the mice making the piano play music. Now that's the non-example because the Ghostbuster could prove that it was the mice. He could explain the cause of that strange thing. Now, this is important because of the next task I want you to do. I want you to look for the strange things in the article. In other words, the things that do not have a reason or explanation. Okay, so this is our final task for today, just to focus on a summary of the strange things that happen in the article. And all I want us to do for this final stage of summarizing is to complete the following statements. Now, a little disclaimer, it can only go down as a strange thing if it's inexplicable. Okay, if we can't find out a logical reason for why it was happening, then it's going to be our strange thing. So you've got 3 statements to copy and complete for our final activity today. So number 1, the first strange thing that happens is, okay, so in a minute you're going to be thinking, well, what's one of those strange things that happens that doesn't have a logical explanation? Number 2, another strange and inexplicable thing that happens. So here we're beginning to use our own new vocabulary, putting inexplicable into our own responses. Another strange and inexplicable thing that happens is. Finally, an inexplicable thing that he mentions is. So your job now is to pause the screen, to look at the article for one last time, and to find 3 strange and inexplicable things that happen. Hopefully one from the beginning of the article, one from the middle, and one from the end. Are you ready? Brilliant. Off you go. Okay, so before we think about what you might have completed those statements with as your final summary, just a reminder then that you could have looked across the article, okay, for any of these answers. And the article itself, okay, means that some of us could have come up with different answers. So there was a clue. We could have started then with a clever, the strange occurrence of the oranges, okay, the fruit bowl lifted up and the oranges bounced all around the room. He talks about another investigation, another inexplicable event was where a heavy clock mysteriously transported from one end of the mantelpiece to the other. And even though he talks about it being explained by maybe an electrical magnetic energy at this stage in the article, he can't prove it like he could the mice or the nightgown. So this is only his suggestion. So I'll accept we've started with the fruit bowl. Then we've got the lovely moment where the clock moves down the mantelpiece. Okay. Then he talks about the old man. Okay. The guy that used to work in the bakery, that people could see a ghost-like figure of him. So that could be our third reasoning. Okay. And the fourth or other choice you could have made was the strange smells of egg and bacon. Now, again, he tries to explain and offer an explanation using that word impregnated, but he can't really give us 100% guarantee that that's the cause for the smell. So just as we go back to your statements, we will accept the strange thing, the fruit bowl, another strange and inexplicable thing, the clock moving. And then for your final one, it could be a choice between the old man whose ghostly appearance appeared at the bakery, or the strange smell. It's been so lovely working with you guys today on the skills of summarizing and clarifying, and I look forward to working with you tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of your day, guys, and don't stress about it. Take it as far as you can go and do your best. See you tomorrow. Bye.